This is by Jim Chalmers.
Oh, Jim.
Jim Chalmers, the Australian treasurer, and recurring character of the pod. His favorite musicians are Tupac, Nas, and Biggie, and it just doesn't make any sense. So, Jim Chalmers, Australia and the AI revolution, turning algorithms into opportunities.
Great, Jim. Tell us how.
Well, he says we cannot simply let AI rip, but nor can we pretend that it's not happening.
We can't let it rip like a Beyblade?
We can't let it rip like a Beyblade. But we can chart a middle course. Every time we chart a middle course, like, oh, we'll just have some AI in our life.
We'll just have a little bit.
Anyway, so Jim Chalmers has written this large article in The Guardian writing about how the government has the opportunity to get into AI, both from a perspective of AI hardware, like maybe we could be doing some stuff like infrastructure, but also for, we could get our... he wants to build confidence in AI to accelerate development and adoption into key sectors.
Considering how well Robodebt went, I'm sure this will go really well.
I think it'll go even better. What part of Australia's government are you most excited to turn over to AI, everyone?
All of Parliament.
I also agree with all of Parliament, but I also have seen OpenAI, and it always evolves into something kind of slightly sexy. So I think that'd be very exciting to see.
Oh my god, we could have like a country, like our country could have like a girlfriend. Yeah. We could have like Australia's girlfriend. And she's AI, and I love her desperately. Yeah. And when we go to war, we'll be like, we're doing this for Sheila,
Oh my god, that would be great.
People are entitled to their sexual proclivities. Let there be 1,000 blossoms bloom. But I ain't spending any time on it. But I ain't spending any time on it. But I ain't spending any time on it. Let there be 1,000 blossoms bloom. But I ain't spending any time on it.
Hi, Karen.
Hi, Yanni.
Hi, Casey.
Hi, Yanni.
Hi, Casey.
Hi, Kieran.
Hi, Kills.
Hi.
Keely.
Hi.
Hi, Keely.
Hi.
Everyone has to say hi to each other. We started this when there were 3 of us. Now there's 4 of us, and it's actually twice as long a process.
Powerful.
It's very funny. Welcome back to Shouldntacome, something between a hater podcast and cunty psychopumps performing spectral propaganda. We're diving into the murky world of parapolitics today. The shadowy influence of behind-the-scenes grifters, opportunists, rent seekers, international arms traders, and pseudo-governmental cabals. Not all of it, though. We're gonna be talking about tax a lot today.
Oh, yay!
Going to start with one of the scariest things that you can start with in literature: a reading from the Bible.
Oh no!
Specifically, Stephen's speech to the Sanhedrin, as depicted in Act 7. If you just go to the next slide first, Casey.
Wow, this is not a joke. We will be doing a Bible reading. Wow. All right, let's go.
I'm sorry, I didn't bring my hat and gloves for this.
It's a retelling. So Stephen is on trial, right? Stephen's on trial for blasphemy and shit like that. He's a working-class Jewish activist talking to the Jewish council. And he's retelling the story of the Israelites' history. And we get to the part where the Israelites are obeying Moses. Our ancestors refused to obey him. Instead, they rejected him, and in their hearts turned back to Egypt.
I was the prince of Egypt, the son of the man who slaughtered their children.
They told Aaron, "Make us gods who will go before us. As for this fellow Moses who led us out of Egypt, we don't know what has happened to him."
Well, you got me. By all accounts, it doesn't make sense.
That was the time they made an idol in the form of a calf. They brought sacrifices to it and reveled in what their own hands had made. But God turned away from them and gave them over to the worship of the sun, moon, and stars.
So many stars, so many stars.
This agrees with what is written in the book of the prophets. Did you bring me sacrifices and offerings 40 years in the wilderness, people of Israel? You have taken up the tabernacle of Molech and the star of your god Rephan, the idols you made to worship. Therefore, I will send you into exile beyond Babylon. Our ancestors had the tabernacle of the covenant law with them in the wilderness. It had been made as God directed Moses, according to the pattern he had seen. After receiving the tabernacle, our ancestors under Joshua brought it with them when they took the land from the nations God drove out before them. It remained in the land until the time of David, who enjoyed God's favor and asked that he might provide a dwelling place for the God of Jacob. But it was Solomon who built a house for him. However, the Most High does not live in houses made by human hands. As the prophet says, "Heaven is my throne, and the earth is my footstool. What kind of house will you build for me, says the Lord? Or where will my resting place be? Has not my hand made all these things? You stiff-necked people, your hearts and ears are still uncircumcised. You are just like your ancestors. You always resist the Holy Spirit. Was there ever a prophet your ancestors did not prosecute? They even killed those who predicted the coming of the righteous one." And they stoned him to death. So that's Act 7, and I'll explain later. Because we're actually going to start with the Australian Labor Party in the present.
Oh, my Bible.
Oh dear. Can I just comment that your ears are still uncircumcised is the best thing ever?
Yeah, pussy, you still got lobes on that thing.
Yeah, it's
disgusting.
You just aren't listening, or like somebody's like giving you a hard time.
It's like, your ears are
uncircumcised.
Can you please take your
Get over
ear foreskin,
yourself.
like roll back your ear foreskin?
And listen
I've got
to-
something to say.
Can you roll back your ear foreskin and listen for once in your goddamn life?
life?
A lot of the rest of the verse is about circumcision as well, actually. Like, there's a part where Abraham's talking to God, and then he's like, "Then he gave Abraham the covenant of circumcision, and Abraham became the father of Isaac and circumcised him 8 days after his birth." I don't know what to tell you. Later, Isaac became the father of Jacob. I was like, that's great. So, over the last few months of 2024 and the first few months of 2025, Anthony Albanese and his clown carriage of goons appointed these two parallel special envoys for Islamophobia and anti-Semitism. The appointment of a British expert on countering violent extremism, Aftab Malik, for the Islamophobia envoy was controversial from the jump. Aside from his Muslims are terrorists, maybe academic background, as opposed to Muslims are definitely terrorists, people pointed out that he didn't even grow up in Australia, so I don't know how useful he's going to be about grassroots Islamophobia. And the CVE ideology, that is, countering violent extremism, has been blamed by the Islamic Council of Victoria for extremely deleterious effects on the mental health of young Muslims in Australia through invasive targeting, erosion of community trust, abuse of power by police. The last 20 years of, hey, don't trust your Muslim friends that we've kind of grew up with.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter because as of 2 weeks ago, he still hasn't hired any staff. It's been a year. He hasn't hired anyone to work with the Islamophobia envoy. That is contrasted with the Antisemitism Envoy, who has 4 full-time employees on the payroll. Her name is Jillian Segal, and she is absolutely Australian, in that her parents are South Africans who moved here to mine gold.
Oh, yeah, the Australian story.
And process titanium.
Of course.
She was also previously the president of the Executive Council of Australian Jewry, who we have spoken about a lot recently. But to catch everybody up, Kelly, they are a constitutionally pro-Israel lobbying group in Australia that receives stupendous amounts of private and public funding to advocate for the terrorist state that we've all finally decided might be a little bad.
Oh, lovely. Love that. Thank you.
Of course. Jillian has been accused by many, including the Australian Palestine Advocacy Network, the Lebanese Muslim Association, and the Jewish Council of Australia of abusing her position, presenting false evidence, and general racism. And she is suggesting a law to make criticism of Israel inherently anti-Semitic, and she wants to cut funding from organizations that aren't, doing enough to combat anti-Semitism. She also wants to be the... She wants a position where she gets to approve all media, it seems like is what she's asked for. She wants a position where she's the sole, everything has to go by Jillian.
Okay. Again, not beating the cabal allegations, but
Listen, strap in, my friend. No one's beaten no allegations today.
Miserably, I stay strapped.
Stay strapped, pack a gap every day.
Also, when she ran NAB, because she ran NAB for a while as well, which also, why, that seems like an unnecessary qualification for being the grassroots anti-Semitism envoy, being in charge of National Australia Bank.
Yeah, I was in charge of a bank. Okay.
But she also, did a bunch of misconduct while she was in charge of
NAB.
NAB.
Well.
But that's just banks, always, so I don't know. I don't know how much you can read into that.
That's fair enough, that's just bank shit.
Yeah, so Jillian had kind of faded from the zeitgeist after being appointed the envoy. She says things that are controversial every once in a while, but she's largely in the the words and talking side of things as opposed to all that's happening in Gaza. So she faded from the zeitgeist until recently, until in mid-July 2025, when it was revealed that her property mogul husband runs a trust that donated $50,000 to the Advance Australia lobby group. The Advance Australia lobby group claimed that Palestinians in Australia are a risk to security, left-wing politicians are on the same side as Hamas, and were, according to the SBS, one of the most prominent drivers of the No campaign during the Indigenous Voice to Parliament referendum. They also, hate the gays for what it's worth. This is just one of those lobby groups, a really far-right lobby group with really far-right ideas.
Yeah, just hey, you better be white and straight, otherwise we've got a big issue.
Otherwise, we've got a big issue. Now, the thing is, it's her husband that directs the company, but it's their fortune. But the reaction to this, in the public eye, was a very cynical and disingenuous interpretation of feminism.
No one would tolerate or accept my husband dictating my politics, and I certainly won't dictate his. I've had no involvement in his donations, nor will I.
The Home Affairs Minister, Tony Burke, followed up with this.
Advance is an appalling organisation, and those who fund it are not acting in the cause of social cohesion. But another of the forms of bigotry that we are fighting is misogyny, and there is no way I'm going back to the 1950s and blaming a woman for the actions of her husband.
You know, I just thought marriage meant something.
Yeah, full offense. If I don't think you should marry someone you have different political beliefs to. I don't think you should marry someone that, you have, I don't know. I just couldn't be me.
It's not like she's a kept housewife. She was the chief executive of NAB. I have to assume you two are on equal footing.
But she's a woman!
A woman!
I don't understand. So the executive director of the Australia, Israel and Jewish Affairs Council, or AIJAC, Colin Rubenstein, said that
criticisms of Jillian smack of conspiratorial thinking, seeking to tarnish her on the ridiculous basis of something her husband is alleged to have done.
So my first question is this. To the room. At what point does being married to somebody evil not matter? How evil do they have to be where it's if she was married to Hitler, surely that'd be too much.
If she was married to Jeff from the Wiggles.
Wake up, Jeff! Everybody's wiggling.
Already I'm okay, there's a correlation. I don't think it matters how evil someone is. I think it always matters, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You could have someone who just cuts people off in traffic, and if you're married to them, it's okay, you're also connected to that.
Yeah, you
there's not it feels like you can't be necessarily I don't know, I just think it's weird to try and have it both ways.
Yeah.
To be I'm involved with this person in this world, and I must on some level support their beliefs because, we've tied our lives together, but then but also be oh, but that's not me who's doing it. I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's in normal crime too. It's somebody would be an accessory to murder if their partner did it and they didn't bring it out to the public or they didn't call the police.
Yes.
So if they're doing absolute bullshit stuff and you're just being complicit in it, you would be an accessory.
Yeah, and it sounds like maybe then your husband's an asshole. I don't know.
Definitely.
But the thing is, it's bad faith because I think, woman, wife is probably the fourth most important thing about Jillian Segal. She's a high-level political actor, a lawyer, and very wealthy. I think those are all more important to who Jillian Segal is. And thus, the fact that her husband is a high-level political actor who is wealthy and advocating for something different to what she's advocating for should be important. But that's fine. It's good because I can actually refer to something Jillian said previously. She did a co-interview with a man named Jeremy Leibler for Australian Jewish News, the AJN, in 2020. In it, the interviewer asks her if there's a particularly poignant moment or experience which shaped her Jewish identity. And Jillian says...
Okay, is that chupa?
Choppa.
Choppa.
I don't know.
A choppa chop?
I don't know if it's like a chop chop. Folks, we're trying to understand how to pronounce CHUPPAH.
I'm going to Google that real quick.
Choppa.
Chupa.
Chupa. Choppa chop. All I can see is the seagulls.
Okay, hang on a second.
I love his smirk.
Oh, he's a fucking piece of shit.
Yeah, but that smirk is he's in a character of it.
He is. He knows who he is.
Koopa.
Chuppah. Oh, it's like chuppah. Papa. It's like one of those slightly aspirated. Right. Just say like.
All right.
Chopper.
Or chopper. I think actually getting married under the hotbar in my parents' small apartment brought home to me that Judaism can be very flexible, adaptable, and personal, despite all the tradition that we have.
You know, like, I think that's her having it both ways. Like, so her thing that brought home to her Judaism and how important it was to her was getting married. But in her role as the head advocate for Jewish people, the person she's married to's political beliefs aren't relevant.
Yeah, which is
nor
kind
what
of
they fund.
Kind of insane.
Like, it's just a massive fall from grace for John, who goes from, in 4 years, from being married is a core part of my public identity as a Jewish person to the person I'm married to has no impact on my public identity as a Jewish person.
Which is insane. It's I don't understand that frame of thinking that, you know, your partner has no, like, I don't know, impact or, like, anything on how you move through life. Because that's the person you're moving through life with.
That's
like,
what I thought.
You
they're
can't,
conservatives. Isn't that what, like, they're political
especially on their side of things, where it's just like, yeah, that is something that's intrinsic.
Yeah, it's like the most important thing for these people.
Yeah. What the fuck? Well, of course, it's because it's different for them, right? It's different because when you're wealthy, everything's different. The rules are different.
Air's different up there. We're not actually going to talk any more about Jillian today. The story around her is still unfolding, and the things she's doing are still happening, and they're dumb. So we're going to talk about the father of the other person in the interview. So the other person she was interviewed with was Jeremy Leibler, and at this point, right now, he's the president of the Zionist Federation of Australia, the ZFA. He talks about his father, Mark, a lot. He says his father inspires him in how he acts with his family and his steadfast activism for Israel, passing the Australian resolution, which led the way to the UN resolution that said Zionism is not a form of racism. Great resolution, that one.
Awesome.
So, and it's, the Australian resolution was spearheaded by his father, and Jeremy kind of points to that as a really inspiring moment in his life. It makes sense. His first goal as a child was to be president of Israel. He's like, I'm Prime Minister of Israel. Like, they were like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And he's like, Prime Minister of Israel.
Sorry, Ben Beecher.
Like, he's born in, like, Melbourne.
Like, yeah, and Netanyahu was born in, like, what?
Philadelphia.
There you go.
What's going on here?
You know, just things and thereabouts, Keely. So we've got a few organizations that have come up in our little intro. I'm going to do a little rundown. I forgot to do a slide for it, sorry. So we had the Executive Council of Australian Jewry, ECAJ. That's the peak body for Australian Jewish domestic issues. And for the record, Jeremy's uncle and Mark's brother, EC, was president of it for about 20 years. They write the spurious anti-Semitism report that we covered a few weeks ago. They were deeply involved in the recent lobbying to sack Antoinette Lattouf from the ABC, which we covered a few weeks ago, when she was pointing out Israel's war crimes. How dare she? And they've been writing to Penny Wong every day, being like, don't give Palestine statehood. You're talking about it. Don't do it. Then we also talked about the Zionist Federation of Australia, the ZFA, of which Jeremy Leibler is currently the chairperson. Mark was previously president and vice president of it, like at different times, working with it for a few decades. The ZFA is the peak body for Israelis in Australia. So the idea is they talk about Israel, the country. ECAJ is meant to advocate for Jewish people in Australia.
So it doesn't matter whether you're like a Polish Jew or like a Middle Eastern Jew. It's kind of like, as long as you're not, like, Israel-centric, that's kind of what ECAJ's vibe is. It's meant to be, like, for global Jewishness.
No, ECAJ is very much for Australian Jewish people. Anyone who is Jewish in Australia. Executive Council of Australian Jewry.
That makes sense.
ZFA, the Zionist Federation of Australia, is those people who want to advocate for Israel in Australia.
Okay.
So, like, at Israel's interests in numerous ways.
Yeah.
So, their ideology is the permanent homeland of the Jewish people. They want Israel to be the permanent homeland of the Jewish people. They want to establish it, all like the Israel stuff, right? So we also briefly touched on the Australia-Israel Jewish Affairs Council, AIJAC. They are the most powerful of all of these bodies, and Mark Leibler is currently their national chairperson. Colin Rubenstein, who we heard from a few slides ago, does most of their public statements. They were vocal supporters of the Iraq War, John Howard, Peter Dutton, so, you know, yay.
Oh, really good people.
They also send a lot of people over to Israel to do some good whining and dining and propaganda mining. The Rambam Fellowship. So it was recently in the news again for one of those people they sent over. Funnily enough, it's a character from yesteryear we met when we spoke about the Sydney Olympics. Nova Paris, the improbably named hockey player turned sprinter turned Labour senator, mostly made her name on the I'm Nova Paris public speaking circuit, but was known for her advocacy for education, the voice to Parliament, and the Australian Republican movement. She left the last one of those sometime in 2024 because they don't support Israel, and she really passionately supports Israel. And now her social media is full of like, Muslims are actually Satan worshipping cockroaches style, like really racist, old school racist style content.
Jesus.
Here's a random photo of Nova Paris in mid-June 2025. What do you see in this photo, Kieran?
Oh, no. That is a woman of color.
Yeah, she was the first Indigenous woman to win a gold medal at the Olympics.
I thought that was... No, I guess that wasn't. No, Kathy won afterwards, right?
Exactly. This was the lady who won first.
Fuck.
Do you want to guess where she is?
The title is Nova Paris in an Israeli bunker.
She's back here now. But as Iranian missiles were occasionally intercepted by the Iron Dome, she was there with her husband. If you'll remember, in July, there was a brief 12-day-ish exchange of hostilities where something like 20 Israelis were killed and something like 1,000 Iranians were killed, and Iran had to say sorry. She's over there in Israel, well, she was over there to accept an award for exceptional achievement in the fight against anti-Semitism. Don't worry, she's okay. She was telling Sherry Markson that the resilience of Jewish people is just unbelievable, like a week later.
Nice.
She had previously been on the Rambam Fellowship, but this was a separate tour organized by AIJAC. In the 2010s, AIJAC sent so many federal politicians to Israel that they were the largest sponsor of all non-government funded trips overseas. Almost more than China and the United States combined.
What?
Jesus.
What the hell?
Just AIJAC. Not even like Israel, just AIJAC. This has included such luminaries as Julesy, Malcolm, Big Tony, Kev, Dutz, Big Bill Shortman, Penny, and Tanya, as well as the director of the SBS, the editors of The Guardian and Daily Telegraph, and of course, Andrew Bolt.
Jesus Christ. Wait, they've had all of those people go over to Israel?
Yes.
Fuck me.
Among like hundreds of others.
Yeah, but these are like our big names.
Yeah, those were the biggest names on that one fellowship as well.
What the fuck?
Yeah. We'll get there.
Hate that news.
Nova isn't the only prominent celebrity, centrist indigenous public voice to come forward to criticize Palestinians for their continued breathing. Marsha Langton, who I've often loved as a commentator, peddled in the Hamas uses Palestinians as human shields rhetoric and the this is happening because you guys voted in Hamas stuff, the pablum that kind of ignores the situation.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Warren Mundine punched this one in.
No genocide nor apartheid in Israel. Gaza has ruled itself since the withdrawal of Israel in 2005. Hamas has fired thousands of missiles against Israel. The 7th Oct Hamas broke the truce by invading Israel, killing, gang raping, torturing, mutilating, kidnapping civilians. Damn, bro, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's Warren Mundine. It's like you're not even the one who got punched as much. Like, why do you?
Why are you acting as if you've got some sort of terrible injury?
So we've spoken before about how little evidence there actually is about some of those lurid claims of ultraviolence associated with October 7th, and how few people in the Australian official sphere mention it. Like, the UN did an investigation and found no evidence of sexual violence.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to really tell you. They did find evidence of Israeli soldiers moving bodies around to make it look like they'd been victims of sexual violence.
Yeah, I heard that. They stripped dead bodies.
Yeah, and spread their legs open and such. Bodies that seemed like they were killed by missiles.
Yeah, and then the investigations and the autopsies were done by the IDF's group, right?
Yes, that don't do autopsies.
Yeah, so they just do an investigation, physically look over the body and say, it must have been sexual assault.
Yes.
They don't do any tests, any rape kits or anything.
Exactly. No, exactly. Just to catch everyone up on what Warren Mundine's talking about here. So Warren went on to Sky News eventually to make the claim that Indigenous people in Australia are being used by the pro-Palestine movement, which, if you go to any pro-Palestine rally, you'll see Indigenous flags. If you go to any January 26th rally, you'll see a Palestine flag. You'll often see those two things displayed together. You speak to anyone in the know, they know what's going on, so what's going on here? If you ask prominent Indigenous lawyer Noel Pearson, it's because of the shared trauma of Aboriginal and Jewish communities, and the land-based spiritual identity shared by the two peoples. In fact, he once made a speech about how Indigenous Australians should take inspiration from Israel, how they were able to rise after the Holocaust. And then he kind of goes, but you're all abusing alcohol and you can't get out of your own way. And we could be like Israel.
Off. Fuck off.
It's like trying to do the camaraderie and then followed by immediate racism.
Just
Exactly,
like backhanded, like, you know, like, well, I mean, you could be like Israel if you weren't so fucking deficient. And it's
Yeah.
like, what?
And like Noel Pearson's like an indigenous man.
That's fucked.
Like he's a prominent indigenous academic and lawyer and public figure. Also, if you ask Noel Pearson, Mark Leibler is one of, if not the major and primary inspiration of his life. As he is quoted on the cover of The Power Broker, Michael Gowenda's book about Mark.
Power. He taught me about power. How to get it and how to use it.
Hot.
Come on, man.
You know, flour. He taught me about flour. How to get it and how to bake it.
Also hot.
You know?
Towers. He told me about towers.
He taught me about towers. How to count them and how to crash them.
But yeah, I just think that's a very ominous thing to say about someone. It's on the front of the book that's like celebratory of Mark Leibler's life. This is what the book wants you to know about Mark Leibler.
They're just like, he's a really big, powerful boy. Don't you fight with him. He's so nasty and strong.
And not just that, but Noel Pearson thinks so.
Noel Pearson thinks it too. Noel Pearson calls Mark Leibler daddy. And I want you all to understand.
Knock, recognize, knock. You know?
Put a pin in that.
Oh, no, don't say
No. I mean, yeah, but in a little. I just want him to sound less evil. Anyway, I think we should finally get to this all-powerful Mark Leibler character I've been building up. Here is a picture of the man.
Let me see. Wow, he looks like that actor from fucking Evil. Remember the guy who's like the therapist? Like the top half of him kind of looks like the therapist from Evil.
Oh, yes.
Do you see that?
I do think it looks more like the Duke of Wesselton from Frozen.
Oh, that's why you had the image. Yes, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I see
Casey,
that.
if you could just go back to the Duke of Wesselton from Frozen.
No,
and
of course.
For the listeners at home.
Yes, yeah, you're right. You're
if you
right.
want to understand what Mark Leibler looks like, just Google either Mark Leibler or Duke of Wesselton from Frozen.
That's incredible, actually. That is a wild likeness.
Love it.
Spot on.
All right, there he is. He's an older gentleman. I'd place him probably like late 60s. He's got like no hair on top. He's got the classic like my hairline is receded so far back it's become kind of like a cove. Like we've got thin eyebrows. He's got some of those like frameless glasses. He's got a very, very well manicured mustache. It's quite precise. And he's wearing a blue tie. He's in a suit and he's sitting on a chair. And he's looking at the camera. He's looking right at me, I think. Oh my God, is he looking at me? Oh my God, guys, do you think he's looking at me?
And you just called him daddy, too.
Oh my God. Let me just lick my hand and slick my hair back.
Mark Leibler is a persnickety, crotchety, racist, sociopathic, narcissistic, solipsistic bully. He's one of Australia's most powerful international advocates, I guess, and I would say the most powerful one who isn't primarily attached to a extractive industry like mining or weapons or something like that.
That's a good point because, you know, you've got the others that are like Gina,
Yes.
Live,
Yes.
Murdoch.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah, he's the one that's he's like he's probably the most powerful cultural representative in Australia. I think fair to say.
That's crazy.
He runs Arnold Bloch Leibler, which is a law firm which has had Prime Minister John Howard do the keynote speech at their 50th birthday.
Naturally.
Prime Minister Tony Abbott at the 60th birthday.
Naturally.
And then in a twist, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese from the Labour Party on their 70th birthday.
Jesus Christ. They're all a pack of fucking, like, spineless cowards.
Gross.
Love to see, you know, strength and moral values for the political parties. I love to see how different our two political parties are.
They're very different.
Very different.
They just lick the other boot.
Yeah. Hey, you know, Leibler's got two boots. One for each.
Plenty to go around.
Exactly.
In fact, Mark counts every prime minister in our lifetime, except for one, as a personal friend of his that he can call on the phone when he wants.
Who's the one he can't call on the phone?
We'll get there. So his firm's clients include, in 2018, 35 of Australia's richest 200 people.
Jesus, okay.
Gwenda's book goes to pains to note that 19 of them are Jewish.
Okay.
So Mark, let's get into his life.
Yeah, tell me about
The
Mark.
life of Mark. His father, Abraham Leibler, was a diamond peddler from a family of diamond peddlers. It's 1938, and Abraham is on a boat from his home in Antwerp to a fascinating part of the world, Singapore and Australia. The plan is to sell diamonds to Australians or whatever and come back. But Rachel, his wife, calls him, I guess, or sends a letter. It's the 30s. Calls him and is like, don't
Maybe
come
it's a
back.
Marconigram.
Maybe it's a Marconigram. Yeah, so Rachel sends a Marconigram being like, don't come back. The Nazis are coming. We're going to leave. We'll come join you. I'll bring EC, our son EC. Obviously EC. I'll bring EC and we're going to flee Antwerp to Australia.
Fair enough.
It costs about £200. So adjusted for inflation, that is about 17,000 Australian dollars right now.
Off.
To qualify to be one of the 7,000 Jewish people accepted as refugees into Australia. So, this is before the Holocaust. This is 1939. So, Nazi control and influence in Germany has started, but the actual process of killing people has not. So people are like, we can see what's happening. And Australia is like, we'll take 7,000 of you if you can pay us, 17 grand each.
That's fucked.
So
$17,000.
Rachel's also from a family of diamond peddlers. So she was able to get the money to make it happen by selling some diamonds. In June of 1939, Abraham sets up a diamond business in Melbourne. They did this because they could see the Holocaust coming, and Rachel's parents do die in Auschwitz in 1943. They decide not to leave. The same year that Rachel's son, Mark, was born. Mark is born into this odd little community of, Holocaust dodgers, I guess you can say. And I don't mean to say that pejoratively, but I mean they dodged it in that they didn't get out of it. They got out right before it. Something that was, more accessible to wealthier people because you're going through more standard immigration quotas rather than refugee systems where you're kind of taking whoever can come, right? So it's a pretty standard immigrant story from a logistical perspective. It costs money to leave the global south for the global north. So a diaspora community is going to be on average richer than the community they've left behind.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And it's, it's rarely the most downtrodden who are able to make it happen. So anyway, as a child, Mark is going to the first Jewish school in Australia. His older brother, EC, had gone to a public school and had said that non-Jewish boys used to form gangs to taunt and beat up migrant and Jewish boys, which, welcome to the immigrant experience, EC.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's... Australian schoolyards are like that.
It's Australia. It's real bad.
Yep. Any
bad.
sign of weakness is...
Any sign of weakness.
Very good target.
Yeah, but anyway, so this is what EC has to say about being beaten up in high school.
That experience transformed me into the person I am. That brought out my aggressive responses. They've stayed with me. I was one of 6 Jewish kids collected by the older boys and beaten up. I was so outraged that, for the next year, I organised teams of kids to systematically beat up the people who had humiliated me. Wow.
I just want to reconstruct this scenario socially. So you have these 6 kids who it's kind of implied are they don't have social capital. They're recent immigrants. They get beaten up, for anti-Semitic reasons, for Australian racist reasons, really. And then one of those kids is able to, within a year, socially engineer enough public support to commence a campaign of violence at a high school?
I love it. It's very mobster.
Yeah.
I was going to say this feels kind of John Wick, but for kids.
Yeah.
I once saw him kill 3 men in a bar with a pencil.
I do love me some John Wick.
I mean, he sounds like he's trying to make himself John Wick. EC, at this point, to be fair, when he says this, was running Australia's biggest travel agency, Jet Set Tours. So he's a liar and a con man and a fraud, but he's also always known as a hothead who might threaten you if he's unhappy, and he loses his cool habitually. Here's a picture of EC with an Australian figure from history that you might recognize.
Oh, shit.
Good old Bob.
Yeah. The Hawkster.
Yeah, it's EC with Bob Hawke. Being friends with prime ministers is a family tradition for the Leiblers. They're really weird guys. Anyway, back to the 50s. Shortly after going back to Antwerp to retrieve another stash of hidden diamonds, Abraham Leibler buys a Jaguar. Weird. Like the car.
Okay, good. I was about to be like...
I saw one of your faces, and I'm like, you guys don't all care about Jaguar,
No, it's because
much.
we've talked about the Panthers recently.
Yeah,
I was like, don't tell me this motherfucker bought a big cat.
That would be crazy if I...
That would be crazy if you had connected that to the fucking Blue Mountains Panther,
Abraham
and you're like,
Leibler.
yeah, so Abraham released the Jaguar because it got too big and released it into the Blue Mountains, and now we have a colony of big cats living in the Blue Mountains.
Well, Mark Leibler has an ongoing public feud with Grant Denyer. No,
for real?
No.
I was about to be like, you can't just drop this law on me. I'm not ready.
Do you reckon Grant Denier's commented on, like, Gaza?
Grant Denier's just like, I know what I saw, mate.
He's too busy hunting the cat.
He's too busy trying to find this panther. Keel's last episode, we talked about how Grant Denier believes there's a panther on his property. Yeah, you'll have to listen to it to find out. Anyway, so he dies a few years later. Abraham
Grant?
dies. Not
Grant.
No. It's normal. Abraham dies normally. He's just old. So he's not around to see Mark marry Rosanna Weiss. But I have to imagine he would have approved of the speech that Mark's mom, Rachel, gave Rosanna when they were getting married. Rosanna is the child of a textile magnate who paid for the trip to flee Europe for Australia by selling a bunch of, say it with me, diamonds.
Damn, more diamonds.
Yeah, most everyone...
Was everybody just trading in diamonds back then?
Just, rich people.
Well, I guess so. I mean, I guess you got to be rich to be able to...
It's a booming industry at that time.
Yeah, I guess so. Just fucking...
South Africa stuff.
Gold isn't as, it's not cool anymore to sell gold.
No.
What about diamonds? Have you heard this new thing called diamonds? You could sell those.
Shine bright like a diamond. So here's what Mark's mum tells Mark's to-be wife when they're about to get married. Just like a little hey, welcome to the family.
Now listen, you have to be an obedient wife. You have to do whatever he wants because he's going to be the breadwinner and he's got a career and he's going to be a leader. And it means you won't have a career and you have to do everything and be supportive so that he can reach his potential.
Run!
Wow.
Definitely need to run. Also, Rachel is Belgian.
Damn, okay.
She comes to Australia as a 30-year-old. But I think I like that as her voice.
All right,
don't
that's
want to
her
change
voice
it.
now.
I just wanted to...
I'm Rachel.
But she's Belgian. So the Leiblers, they're a very culturally conservative family, you can see. They have conservative values culturally, and they're staunchly pro-Israel. We've already talked about Mark and Essie, but Abraham, their father, was the president of the Victorian Jewish Board of Deputies, and Rachel was the founder of Emua, the religious women's Zionist organization.
Damn.
The organization later elected Essie's wife as world president. They're also fabulously wealthy. Like I said, Essie Leibler runs the travel agency, and Mark Leibler is a lawyer at Arnold Bloch. This is very much a Jewish law firm, but we are talking about 1970s Australia. Everything is an ethnic thing. You have Lebanese pizza shop, Jewish law firm, Italian hairdresser.
There's enough people from around the world that we do have bigger diasporas here, but it's not so big that there aren't segmented societies.
It's also not an integrated society where these diasporas kind of mingle with each other.
Yeah.
Especially the statistics, the Australian Jewish community, Peak Bodies collects statistics on how many people in the community are against intermarriage, because ZFA is against intermarriage. They're against Jewish Australians marrying non-Jewish people.
Damn.
That's a stance that they've had to soften on in the last 5 years.
They were nah, maybe.
Yeah. Mark's working with Arnold Bloch. So it's a Jewish law agency. By 1969, the firm will be known as Arnold Bloch Leibler as Mark becomes a partner.
Damn.
And I might call it ABL sometimes, just to fuck around a little.
Just as a treat.
But yeah, ABL, Arnold Bloch Leibler. Arnold Bloch is a different guy. Mark and Essie thus have a lot of time to devote to Israel stuff and resources, though Mark is more in the nitty-gritty and makes more, legislative decisions or whatever, and Essie is more about the public statements. To be fair, he's a few years older, he's more established. So Essie is one of a few Australian leaders who go to Gough Whitlam in 1973 at the start of the Yom Kippur War. The Yom Kippur War was when Egypt and Syria tried to retake land that Israel had taken in the Six-Day War of 1967. The Jewish leaders have gone to Gough to ask him to condemn the war, but he's no, stay out of this, we're staying neutral, that's what, we're not saying anything. And Gough and the ALP are, however, acutely aware of the power of these lobbying groups, so they don't want to, piss them off completely. And they're worried that Jewish Australians might not vote for them because of this, because they know that at this time especially, those groups kind of follow what Essie says. So they have a big dinner with a bunch of Jewish leaders. A prominent Jewish writer who was there remembers it as a disaster, and Mark's heart dropped when Gough Whitlam apparently said,
"You people need to realise there is a large Arab community in Australia, a Christian Arab community."
Yeah, Mark remembers being what do you mean, you people?
I mean, you people. The lot of you people. It's like, you can't say that. Well, what am I supposed to say? All yous.
You guys are all here.
Could I just clarify? Like, the land that was taken was like a bit of Egypt and Lebanon, right?
Yes, and Syria.
Have a pretty high Christian community, like Coptic Christian and all.
Absolutely. A lot of Arab Christians had moved to Australia. As an example, Bob Catter's family.
Yeah.
Which is crazy
Arab
to pull.
Christians who live in land that I think Israel has taken parts of the areas and moved to Australia. I don't know what Bob Catter thinks about Israel. I didn't look it up. We won't look it up today.
I mean, he's not going to waste any time on it because, every 6 weeks in far north Queensland, somebody's torn to pieces by crocodiles.
Every 6 weeks in far north Queensland, a crocodile is torn to pieces by an anti-Semite.
Yeah,
Anyway, so Mark's like, oh, I realized how quickly Australians could become anti-Semitic. I have to be, vigilant my whole life because, Gough, he so quickly was like, you people. Gough, for his part, says that they tried to blackmail him into supporting Israel.
Jesus Christ.
He says, the blackmail was exercised by some heroes in the Australian Jewish community on the other side of the world from the hostilities. But it doesn't seem like he ever went into detail about, what the blackmail was, who it was aimed at, what they threatened, etc. Or if he did, I didn't find it. Mark is, however, committed to being a hero for the Australian Jewish community, but only some of that is in this high-stakes war of Israel's endless bloodshed. And here's where we get to the thing that Mark actually cares the most about: tax law.
Great.
So, in the late 1970s, Leibler makes his first contact with Michael D'Ascenzo, who is going to work for the ATO for 40 years, the last 7 of those as commissioner. Michael is trying to deal with a tax stripping scheme, which is where money made by a trust goes into a company that's losing money. So then when the company pays the money to a person, they don't have to have paid tax on it.
Right, because it came from the trust?
Because it came from this entity that's losing money, and so it doesn't have to pay tax.
Okay.
And then it loans the money out to the person, but it's a fake entity. And so the loan is like a 0% interest loan that doesn't need to be paid back. So this is just
some rich people fuck shit where they try and get around all the laws that the rest of us have to obey.
Exactly. Michael D'Ascenzo describes it as really contrived and obvious. Like, you look at it as this is silly. These companies aren't real. And D'Ascenzo is going to make these schemes illegal. He's identified 16 ways they do it. And he wants to figure out a settlement with the people doing the schemes, basically saying look, we won't take you to the court if you pay us the tax money that you owe us, and we won't penalize you for the late payments, which is such a kid gloves way to treat tax cheats. But he's like, look, this way we get some of the money in. If this goes to the courts, they'll just keep appealing and appealing and
delay
appealing.
And delay and
exactly.
delay and
just get some of the money in. It's the kind of is what common sense politics is like, just capitulating every time something happens. So Mark calls him when he hears that he's going to do this. Mark Leibler calls Michael D'Ascenzo because he just has his number to be like, my clients are happy to accept the settlement. And D'Ascenzo says, quote, once people heard that somebody as influential as Leibler would settle, others would settle. He's like, if Mark's in, all the rich people will be fine with it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if he is this tax law expert, and as we can see, he's very well connected and his family's very well connected, it does kind of make sense. They're like, oh, well, if Mark couldn't get out of it, then yeah, the rest of us better just fucking do it.
Yeah. Exactly. That's the idea. He's like this conduit between rich people and the government. It's him in many ways. But yeah, what the fuck? He runs all this shit. In general, people at the ATO regard Leibler as somebody who made easier connections between taxation and high net worth individuals, which is how they refer to their clients.
Rich people.
Allowing for tax issues to be settled easier. Mark's got a reputation among people who work at the tax office, however, of being a bully and intimidating people into getting his way. However, Mark passionately denies the bullying allegations.
There were auditors who became emotionally involved, who acted for ideological reasons, or who I felt were not properly applying the law. In some of these cases, I did go to senior officials, and you know what? Mostly these cases were quickly resolved. Yes, I often made it clear that I was going above their heads, or threatened to do so, but I don't regard that as bullying.
Yeah, it's not bullying. What are you talking about?
Yes, I pulled his pants down, and yes, he didn't have any undies on, but I don't regard that as bullying. It was a bee on his butt. I told him there was a bee on his butt, and I'd pull his pants down.
He's that kind of He's like very anal, very nitpicky, very specific about his words. And if you say a word that he can kind of make an argument against, he will use that to really discredit everything about you.
Look, this does sound like a lot of the lawyers that I knew when I was in my 20s. Like,
I hated those cunts.
yeah, I know you did. So did I.
Shout out.
Shout out to that fucking loser who looked like a Beatles extra. Yeah, he's fucking with his bolo tie and shit. Made me hate bolo ties for a minute. Disgusting.
I'm so sorry.
Thank you. Thank
bolo
you.
tie. But the people who like are in charge of the tax office, back to Mark Leibler and the tax. I was
Oh,
like,
yeah,
wait,
of
what are we talking about? They're like, yeah, Mark's really direct and easy to work with. You know, when you worked with him, things just kind of happened. You know, the tax commissioner and stuff. So he kind of gets his way whenever he wants, right? The people in charge love him. Everyone else hates him and are scared of him. And are like, just give him to fucking the commissioners, whatever. Really, the biggest issue in Mark's life at this point is EC. The organizations that Mark works with and eventually runs are trying to be more aggressive in their pro-Israeliness and vehement in their ability to represent all Australian Jewish people. Mark and EC have a bit of a public fight about a lawsuit against a radio station in Melbourne. So Mark's law firm wants to accuse them of anti-Semitism in court, and EC's like, no, it's not going to work. We shouldn't do it. We don't want to piss these people off. And then, basically, they're fighting because there's the Olympics. There's so much going on. There's refuseniks. There are Soviet Jews who want to go to Israel, but the USSR isn't letting them go. And E.C. Leibler is advocating on behalf of these Soviet Jews. So Australian Jewish people, like Mark's people, want to boycott the Olympics because of how the Soviet Union is treating Jewish people. But E.C. says, no, we have to go to the Olympics to support these people. And Jet Set Tours is the official travel partner of the Australian Olympic team. That is E.C. Leibler's travel company.
Damn, okay.
So he's like, we have to go to the Olympics. I stand to make a lot of money from this. And Mark's like, we shouldn't go to the Olympics because they're hurting Jewish people.
For an ideological standpoint, but EC is just like, my business is the people. I'm going to send people to the Olympics. You can't fuck with my business like that.
Exactly. And he also like advocates for refuseniks in Australia. EC has an interesting story, but he eventually loses the battle for like who's the peak Jewish voice in Australia to Mark. Like, spoiler alert, the episode's about Mark.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
So, ABL in this time period is also a big target of a royal commission investigating companies that make fake companies that then disappear to get out of paying tax. These are known as bottom of the harbor schemes because, you know, the company's been sunk.
Yeah.
You just create a company that has a loss and so doesn't have to pay the tax and then transfer the money to a new company. And so when a company goes bankrupt or wants to get out of paying tax, they can do it, right?
Yeah.
Mark says that, you know, when asked about this, like, hey, you're helping these companies avoid like millions and millions of dollars in tax. Like, do you have any ethical problems with that? And he says, I'm not sure that there are ethical and moral issues involved in taxation. You know, it doesn't matter.
There's nothing on.
Because he's an asshole. Because Mark's an asshole.
Well, yeah, and like that's
he's like,
just...
I'm in it for the tax. I'm really just in it for the tax law.
He's like, I'm a lawyer and I like arguments.
Yeah, that's his whole fucking thing. On the topic of the ABL, Mark is also fighting with Arnold Bloch, the AB of ABL.
Oh dear.
So Mark's funding a school, the Yavne School, which is now known as Leibler Yavne College, that is running yearly Zionist camps. It is absolutely, yes, named after him and his family.
Naturally.
They still do these Zionist camps, by the way. They still send kids over there every year. And Arnold is mad that it'll take students away from Mount Scopus, the first Jewish school in Australia, where Mark went, and I think the school that Arnold pays for.
Yeah.
Just like there was a Jewish school that probably doesn't have too many Zionist views, and he's taking them and basically converting the Jewish community in Australia.
Yes. He's also taking all of the more Zionist Jewish parents and getting them to send all their kids to one school. So it's a concentrated power base. Because there are Reform Jews in Australia. There are non-Zionist Jews, Bundists. The author of the book kind of identifies himself as a Bundist until late in life when he becomes a Zionist. And yeah, Arnold Bloch has his issues about this. Arnold Bloch is a kind of interesting case because he's British. So his, like, British Jews, largely the Holocaust kind of passed them by.
Yeah.
In much the same as, like, Northern African Jews and Middle Eastern Jews and stuff.
Yeah, you weren't in the, like, pocket where all that shit was popping off.
Exactly.
In a very severe and horrifying way.
Exactly. So Bloch is going to leave ABL in the 1980s, but they are going to keep the name because it's the name they're known by. So anyway, back to tax. So the treasurer at this time is this guy.
Ah, John fucking Howard. Eyebrows, my glasses.
Still fully black.
You know?
There's a younger John Howard.
Again, I mean, the comb over is...
It's rough.
It's rough.
His
Come
face
on, King.
He's got a baby face.
He kind of does. Like, it's kind of weird to see him not look haggard.
Yeah.
And kind of fucked up.
Yeah. He's also doing something that's not that fucked up. Because he's introduced... he's introducing legislation to make this kind of bottom-of-the-harbor tax scheme illegal.
That's crazy. Okay.
So Mark uses his advocacy, lobbying to get close to the guy, but he's not able to change the amendment. Howard's like, listen, Mark, I understand what you're saying, but we have to do this. People are accusing us of being soft on tax cheats. So Leibler continues cultivating this relationship with John Howard as he tries to convince him to not retrospectively reclaim tax from these companies. That also doesn't work, but Mark's enraged, and he gets in John Howard's ear about other things at this point, like Israel. Internally in the Jewish community, he continues his policing of dissent. This is where Mark's nastiness is most obvious. He stands steadfast to the line that Jews in other countries have no right to criticize Israel, and so if an Australian Jewish voice says something critical of Israel, he will unite the community in harassing people who dare to step outside this line.
But he's not a bully.
He's never a bully, because he's just doing community advocacy or whatever he's defined it as.
What the fuck?
So Gowenda, the biographer, even remembers being inundated with calls from Mark and his associates whenever he criticized Israel as a reporter before he became a Zionist.
Yeah.
He remembers this about minor things. Here's a good point. This book is as much Gowenda's reckoning with what made him a Zionist as it is about Mark Leibler.
Yeah.
And he kind of credits Mark Leibler for Zionism being a disproportionately popular political ideology amongst Australian Jewish people compared to other Jewish diasporas.
Well, I guess as someone who's gone from a Bundist was the other.
Yeah. It's
gone from that kind of ideology into Zionism, and seems like he's attributing that to Mark's work.
A lot of it, yeah.
I guess that is kind of crazy to reflect on the changing of your beliefs.
Yeah.
And being it was mostly this one guy.
It's mostly the efforts of this one fucking dweeb. So the same year, 1982, the second Israeli invasion of Lebanon began. The Liberal government, so the Fraser government, and the opposition Labour government both condemned the invasion, and Bill Hayden, leader of the Labour Party, isn't even going to meet with E.C. Leibler. For a couple of reasons. One, because he's, a staunchly pro-Palestine guy, but two, because E.C. is friends with Bob Hawke. Bob is looming large as a rising star in the Labour Party at this point,
Bob.
And then there's this massacre by Israel's allies in Lebanon. The IDF facilitates it. A bunch of Lebanese people die like the IDF does. And the ECAJ at this point, so EC's outfit, and Bob Hawke's, allied outfit, is about to send a letter to the Israeli prime minister being you have to do a full inquiry into this. We cannot abide by this. This is too much. This is affecting us as, Jewish people. In Australia, we feel bad about this. They're on Team Israel forever, and they're like this. And Mark talks ECAJ out of doing it, being you have to let Israel deal with their own things. We are not there, so we can't criticize them. And so they don't. Mark had previously talked with Barry Cohen, who's a hilariously pro-Israel, anti-apartheid type of guy. I don't know how you managed to balance that.
Damn.
And he's in the Labour Party. And Barry says, we need a free exchange of ideas within the Jewish community to heal from this moment or whatever. And Mark says, responsible Jewish leaders will never indulge in public criticism of Israeli government policy because any justified criticisms are more than adequately articulated by our enemies.
Oh, gross.
Which, I think...
I was going to get some water, so stand up.
Oh my God.
You okay?
Yes. I stopped just in time.
For the listeners, Yanni just ran into a mirror.
No, a mirror hit me.
Sorry, a mirror hit her. A mirror reached out and hit her. That feels kind of crazy. That's like being it just feels weird that you're putting your faith in the enemy to accurately provide an unbiased criticism, or that you're now saying that any criticism, including by someone against you, is valid or is as invalid as a valid criticism would be.
Yeah,
it just feels kind of stupid to be...
It nullifies the possibility of criticism of Israel.
Yeah, it's just you're just as bad as, anti-Semitic people if you say anything.
And there's just this blanket, our enemies. People who have, political or moral issues with Israel versus people who are anti-Semitic have, completely different worldviews.
Yeah.
But looping them
conflating
together,
the two is just
it just makes people who have criticisms of Israel more scared to express those criticisms.
Yeah.
For fear of being labeled something quite bad.
Yeah.
Also, especially like Jewish people who don't believe like in Zionism, like,
Which is a significant amount.
Yeah, so it's like you're being anti-Semitic, and it's like, but I'm Jewish.
And a big part of this is that he has the Yavne Leibler College, which is a like specifically Zionist school. They send these
Educational
kids on,
institution.
exactly, to make sure more people are like that. So Mark is preparing to meet Bill, the leader of the Labour Party, and he thinks that Bill's got conspiracy theories about Jews trying to install Bob Hawke as the Labour leader. Apparently, Bob Hawke is like so often saying like, I'm a hero to the Jewish community, that like he kind of will like start saying it and people like finish his sentence because he's saying it all the time. Like,
Damn.
It's annoying how often Bob Hawke talks about how much Jewish people love him.
That's really funny.
And Mark says as much to Bill. He's like, listen, the factional labor politics mean that you can't properly assess Israel because you're scared of Bob Hawke. That's why you're critical of Israel, because of Bob Hawke.
Right, it's all Bob's fault.
Yeah, basically saying that like you're paranoid about Bob Hawke and that's why you're being biased towards Israel. What are the cats doing?
Oh, Ken was trying to jump on the table.
Oh hell yeah!
And now I'm
This table here?
yes, and now I'm staring at him, and he's death staring me back.
I feel like we should probably mention that we're actually not at home today.
We're not at home. We're at Casey and Keely's place, and they've got two cats. They're cat sitting at the moment, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, they're adorable.
Shout out cats.
They're those little flat-faced ones.
Yeah, they are those little flat-faced ones. He's not able to swing Bill on side for this particular, condemnation, but Mark and Bill do become close. And so when Mark is elected president of Zionist Federation of Australia, he makes his pet goal to rescind UN Resolution 3379 that says Zionism is a form of racism. And we spoke about this earlier. And Bill Hayden's going to be one of his big allies in this.
Right.
So the UN had decided at some point that the ideology of Zionism was racist. Because it is.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. And Mark's a big part of getting that overturned. The thing, like the bill that overturns that is known as the Australian Amendment. We spoke about that earlier.
Yeah.
The biographer I refer to, Michael Goenda, is really petulant about this. He's such a fucking he talks like Mark. This is Michael.
All right. In just 3 decades, the victims of the most murderous form of racism have been turned into racists.
Oh no, in just 30 years, in just an entire generation.
In just 30 years,
a bunch
I can
happened.
make you a racist.
Shortly after Mark's appointment...
No commentary.
I didn't have any... you all are the commentary. I'm the narrator.
I was also not laughing at the racist stuff. I was laughing at the Michael's face.
Yeah,
I just want to say that.
I just tried to pick the picture of him where he looks kind of funniest.
Hell yeah, as you should.
He just looks like a terrible geography teacher.
He does. He was like the editor of The Age for a while, I think.
He kind of does look like the guy that you'd be like throwing shit around the classroom and he would just like uncaringly continue with the lesson, just like not giving a shit, just being like, okay, you're all little cunts and I'm paid to be here, so
like
I'm
a
just going to say
substitute
my
teacher.
bit
Yeah.
and then you leave.
Like a teacher who's been doing it for 50 years and is just like...
Or like Professor Binns.
Yeah, exactly. Just like drones on, is just kind of like, I don't give a shit. Listen if you want.
Yeah, I just hate how he's just like, oh, well, all of this bad shit happened to a group of people, so just let us do anything.
Let us do anything. That's it's so simple. It's, what it is like the personification of community groups.
It's
Like, if something bad happens to somebody, then you should give them some leeway. It doesn't work like that for countries.
But it's also like, it's like, oh, we had like an actual genocide, but that's a justified genocide. And it's also not like retaliation because they're not going for Nazis. They're going for a completely different group of people that had nothing to do with it.
In a completely different part of the world.
Yeah.
Like, there are Mizrahi and Sephardic Jews, which are like Middle Eastern, African Jews, who in many ways weren't really affected by the Holocaust.
Yeah, because of distance.
Yeah. And what gets looped into it is when Israel starts existing and offers all Jewish people citizenship, a lot of those people left the, Arab or North African countries they'd been living in. And there is always like intercommunal racism. I'm not saying that there isn't that, but it gets looped into it as though that's part of the Holocaust. But the mass exodus of people from of Jewish people from Arab and African states to Israel isn't because of the Holocaust in the way that it sounds like when you say it that way. Anyway, so shortly after Mark's appointment as president of ZFA, Chaim Herzog, then president of Israel, started a campaign to rescind the UN amendment formally. Mark is picked to run the Australian part of the campaign. So he starts by writing to all the wealthy and powerful people that he's friends with, explaining to them that equating Zionism to racism is like contributing to anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism. And that's bad. And he got a bunch of letters back being like, we're with you, Mark, from like Bob Hawke or whatever.
Fuck's sake.
Some of his power is because of his clients.
Naturally.
ABL focus on these high net wealth individuals who get incredibly active service from them. Like, he's available all the time. You call him, Mark will pick up. Goenda has a picture of the 6 partners in 1986, and 5 of them are Jewish, as are the majority of their extremely wealthy clients. So some examples of these people are Richard Pratt, who's dead now, thank God, but the cardboard and packaging billionaire.
Damn.
Frank Lowy, alumni of the pod, who is like Westfield and the Football Federation, and also owned the World Trade Center when the planes hit it.
Fuck off. Wait, have we talked about this?
No, I was waiting to bring it up. Isn't that weird? We might have briefly mentioned it.
I was going to say, I feel like I would remember if we talked about this. What do you fucking mean he owned the Trade Center?
He also was literally a soldier during the Nakba.
What?
Yeah, like Frank Lowy was like...
What the fuck?
Frank Lowy was there killing Palestinians back in the 50s or whatever. 60s, whatever.
Jesus Christ. And then he was like, I'm going to open malls and I'm also going to open a World Trade Center.
No, he didn't open it. He just owned the land, or he had like partial ownership of the land. It's weird.
That's fucking bizarre. All right.
So that's Frank Lowy. Then there's Harry Triggerboff, property developer who runs Meriton. Sound familiar?
I mean, kind of. I just like that his name is Triggerboff.
That is a pretty rad name. It sounds like a D&D character.
You know?
Definitely, yeah. Triguboff.
It sounds like one of the Harry McClarys.
Casey, does Meriton sound familiar to you?
Like the hotels?
Like the tallest building in Brisbane?
Oh.
Oh, shit.
It says Meriton at the top.
Yeah.
So that's Henry Triggerboff.
Fuck.
There's John Gandel, whose parents founded Susan, Sussan.
Oh, the clothing brand?
Yes, but he's mainly a real estate guy. There's Mark Beeson, who ran Susan for a long time, including the part where they bought Sports Girl.
Oh, shit.
And that's why there's a Susan and a sports girl in every Westfield.
In every single Westfield.
Oh, shit.
Solomon Lew, who owns a bunch of shares in Meyer and David Jones and stuff like that, and it seems like everyone who works with hates him.
I mean, it's all coming together.
Unrelated to everything else. Like, Solomon Lew seems like specifically everyone hates Solomon Lew.
Damn, they're just like, this guy's a cunt.
And then Alex Waisletts, 50% owner of Australian Community Media, who published the Canberra Times and the Courier Mail and stuff like that.
Oh, damn. Okay.
Yeah, so those are just like some of his clients. Anyway, so they have all this influence. Just to hammer the point home, here's Mark with just some other famous people I haven't mentioned yet.
All right, who have we...
I hate that so much.
So he's with, what, Malcolm Turnbull and...
Netanyahu.
Oh, fuck, that's Netanyahu.
Netanyahu a little bit younger.
Yep, that's Bibi Netanyahu.
Wait, why the fuck are all 3 of these men in a photo together? Is this one of Turnbull's trips to Israel?
Yeah, or Netanyahu's trip here, one or the other.
Jesus fucking Christ. Look at this smug little bitch in the middle.
I just realized they're all wearing blue ties.
They're all wearing blue ties.
Almost identical shades.
Yeah.
I would hate to go to a politician party, like, when there's a theme. Like, everybody's dressing up like crazy, you know, like, at a normal party, and they're like, oh, it's a blue tie.
It's blue tie day.
I mean, this is a nightmare blunt rotation.
There's a nightmare blunt rotation.
Oh, my God.
Fucking Malcolm, Mark, and BB.
Danny boy.
So, all right. Anyway, that's a modern photo, obviously, but back to the 80s. Mark has some wonderful ins to talk to Bill Hayden, who is now foreign minister under Prime Minister Bob Hawke. Because, as it turns out, Jewish cabal or not, Bob Hawke was coming to take Bill Hayden's job, and he did, and then he became Prime Minister. So, Bob is Easy's friend, so Mark's not really got any inroads there. But Mark has educated Bill about the traditional relationship between the Israeli and Australian Labour parties. Bill later writes about how Mark changed his mind about Israel over time.
At first, I built my values at my mother's knee, listening to her talk about the mystical cause of Ireland, and from such values the cause of the Palestinian people was warmly embraced, to the point of gross simplification of Israel's situation.
So, by 1986, Foreign Minister Bill is making a keynote speech at the ZFA's biannual conference.
Of course he is.
You know, because he always
In a normal, regular way.
Normal, regular way. About, you know, what he's learned and why he supports Israel now and how Leibler has educated him. And Leibler works behind the scenes with Bill to get him to sign on to the condemnation of Resolution 3379, He's also cleared this with John Howard, the opposition leader, the Nationals leader Ian Sinclair, and the Australian Democrats leader Don Chipp to make sure they all agree about it. Don Chipp's advisor is also going to start working for AIJAC soon. Mark's going to, poach her.
Damn.
It's a big part of the book, but whatever, I forgot to write about it.
That's fine.
Leibler makes sure that the condemnation passes before Chaim Herzog, Israel's president, is coming to visit later in the year. And he's like, that was one of my goals. I wanted to make sure by the time Chaim got here that I'd pass this condemnation.
Jesus Christ.
And he makes it happen because he can do that, because he has that power. Anyway, in a speech years later where he brags about his influence, Mark says that because Bob Hawke was so famously pro-Israel and associated with the Australian Jewish community, it kind of wasn't important for them to target them. So he targeted Bill Hayden, and those are his words. Bill Hayden, he says, was seen as a creature of the left, and so cultivating his support over several months was extremely important to ensure that the legislation could be passed bipartisanly. And he speaks about this very strategically. Like, I worked for several months making sure I was close with Bill Hayden.
Yeah.
So, the same year, 1986, was the passage of the Australian Citizenship Amendment Act. The rule back then was if you're an Australian citizen, you have to give it up if you become the citizen of another country. Now, Israel, because of the law of return, gives citizenship to any Jewish person who settles there, which means, typically, that they lose their Australian citizenship implicitly.
Yeah.
Now, the Australian embassy had kind of always been like, it's fine, they won't. And they just kind of had, hand-waved this away, right?
Yeah.
Because it was like, well, Israel has, the right of return, it's whatever. So they hadn't, actually lost their Australian citizenship until this point. But with the passage of this act, those citizenships are going to actually be, touched. Some people are mad that their children, who, to be clear, were born in and lived in Israel, were going to lose their Australian citizenship.
Yeah.
Gwenda's annoying fucking book has this annoying but revealing line. These children had not chosen to settle in Israel, yet their ability to return to Australia as citizens was to be denied to them. And why fucking not?
Yeah.
They were born in Israel.
Yeah.
They live in Israel. Their parents are Israeli.
That's really weird. That's really weird.
If they're coming here, they're just tourists, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Bob Hawke says in a speech about this at the time.
In 1986, for example, the Federation drew to the government's attention the difficulties faced by a number of Australians living in Israel who had acquired Israeli citizenship, not knowing that they would lose their Australian citizenship in the process. As a result, the then minister, working closely with the Zionist Federation, was able to find a way to solve the problem satisfactorily.
The satisfactory conclusion leads to some of the fluffiest conflation of what citizenship means that I've ever heard. So, Mark speaks to everybody: senior immigration officials, coalition leaders, Israeli government officials, the immigration minister, the head of the immigration department, fucking whoever, and they're like, okay, what if we amend it to say, as long as an Australian Jewish person in Israel expresses an intention to permanently return to Australia within 3 years, they can retain their Australian citizenship. So it's already an exception.
Right, so they can just... Right, okay. No, give me more information.
Are you up to date?
I'm doing my best to...
If you're an Australian person, you've moved to Israel, or you're the child of an Australian person who's moved to Israel, they're like, hey, Mark, what if we say, as long as that person says, within 3 years I will move back to Australia, they can keep their Australian citizenship. If they don't, within 3 years, they lose it.
Okay, that's fuck us, but I understand.
It's not good enough. So Mark makes sure that they get permanently removed as well. So they just have to express a desire to visit Australia within 3 years, right?
So if they have a holiday every 3 years.
Yes, they keep their Australian citizenship.
What the fuck?
Which isn't good enough either. But Bob Hawke is the Prime Minister, so EC gets involved to organise a meeting with Bob Hawke, and they hash out a solution that makes everyone happy. An Australian Israeli can keep their citizenship as long as they are regularly in contact with people in Australia.
What?
Yeah.
Why isn't that the rule for every other country then?
Can you imagine, right? What the fuck is this? Anyway, eventually citizenship rules did change again, so this implicit citizenship question actually never came up again. We didn't have a whole month talking about it in 2013 or whatever.
No, that'd be crazy.
But yeah, he gets an exception carved out for Israel. Anyway, the same year as the last two things, 1986, he gets in touch with his friend, the tax commissioner, and the Australian treasurer, Paul Keating, to try and stop some more capital gains taxes stuff. What it seems to come down to a guy who was trying to get out of paying tax on his sale of a furniture store so he could build multiple houses to rent out, and it's one of these legal cases where the implication of the ruling is more important than the actual, furniture store.
Yeah.
Leibler's not successful in this attempt, but he becomes close friends with Paul Keating in the process. I wonder if that's going to become important later. I don't know what's going to happen to this Paul Keating guy. It's 1991. Paul Keating is challenging Bob Hawke for Labour leadership and he loses. Mark sends him a letter like, hey, nice try, Paul. Next time, you're definitely going to get it. And Paul replies like, thank you, not sure about all that next time talk. And then 5 months later, he is leader of the Labour Party when he does it again.
Damn.
Paul was closer with Mark, right? So this is when Mark finally is like, I am the Prime Leibler. The Prime Minister is my friend, not EC's friend. The Prime Minister is my friend.
You, just because you're my big brother and you were friends with the Prime Minister, well, I can do that too.
So, keep that energy when you read out what Mark wrote in Australian Jewish News about this.
Okay.
It's true that Mr. Keating is regarded as somewhat of an enigma. He would be the first to concede that he has a very limited knowledge of Jewish affairs and the complexities of the Middle East. I can certainly say that he is certainly not an unknown quantity to me. In light of my contacts with Paul Keating over many years, there is no reason to believe that there will be any shifts in government policy which would be adverse to the interests and concerns of the Jewish community.
So he's basically being like, nah, I know the Prime Minister, none of you guys know the Prime Minister, I know the Prime Minister.
Actually, Paul, and I can call him Paul, because we're actually best friends. We're actually so close, you wouldn't even know. Like, we've got this joke, don't worry, you wouldn't get it, because it's just for me and Paul.
So this is a very stupid part of this public fight that him and EC are having for like, who gets to represent Australian Jewish people? And EC is going to give up and move to Israel pretty soon.
Damn. Just fucking throws in the towel. He's like, whatever, I'm gone.
I'm doing Aliyah. So since Mark is still an incredibly involved member of the Jewish community and nobody else can really challenge him to be the Jewish voice to Parliament.
Damn.
That's some very specific phrasing there.
Yeah, it is.
I wonder if it'll come up.
Anyway, if anybody does challenge him, he does come out in force. Goenda says that in those days, Mark and EC saw themselves as policemen of the extent to which members of the Jewish community could be critical of Israel. Again, I'm still quoting from the book here. This is from the book. If anyone crossed the Leibler line, the brothers reacted with the sort of trenchant, even personal criticism that made enemies of Jews and non-Jews who found themselves in the receiving end of their often vitriolic attacks.
I mean, they just sound like a pair of arseholes who just think they know better than everybody else and are just throwing their weight around to fucking harass their own community as well as other people. Like, that's just some fuck shit.
We call this policing internal dissent.
Yeah.
Through all the, like, he talks about, like, he gets people to, like, he'll bother you at your place of business, people will call you, people won't invite you to things, like, all the aspects of ostracization, right?
That's fucked.
But anyway, it's 1991, and Mark has gone to Brighton Grammar School to watch his daughter do a debating competition. His daughter is going to Yavne Leibler College, named after her dad, so I don't know how she feels about the world, but it can't be good. It can't be good. In the classroom, there is a blackboard with lesson notes from earlier in the day. Importantly, this is an Anglican school. The lesson was about Stephen the Deacon, and a story told in Act 7, where Stephen gives a speech to the local council where he's being charged for blasphemy, though they seem to be trumped-up charges for a political purpose. See, Stephen is a Hellenistic Jew, and had been part of a campaign to get equal rations for Hellenistic and Israelite Jews. The speech is a telling of Israelite history, from Abraham to the circumcision of Isaac, to Egypt, Moses, the burning bush, the tabernacle, blah, 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 and then Solomon who builds the temple, and this is where the Israelites fuck up, according to Stephen, because he says, see, the Most High does not live in houses made by human hands. He then accuses the council of being stiff-necked and having uncircumcised hearts and ears, as we heard earlier.
Classic.
Anyway, the Jewish council stoned him to death, and on the blackboard in the debate hall it says, the Jewish authorities were so angered that they killed Stephen in an act of mob violence. Now, that's what Mark says it says. And Michael pretty much always is just like, Mark's notes say this, so that's what happened.
Very Clive Palmer, he says this thing, so I don't have anything else to go off of.
Exactly. So we don't know what was actually on the blackboard, but Mark says that it has the claim that the Jews killed Jesus, which he says is the traditional way to conjure up anti-Semitism. Now, there's this whole history of, like, that claim being used to justify pogroms. But we have to take Mark at his word that that's what the blackboard said, and his extrapolation that that's what the lesson was about. Because this is like Stephen the Deacon is considered the first Christian martyr. And at the end of the day, he's Jewish, and he's advocating for Jewish women.
Yeah.
The reason that the Hellenistic Jewish women, as per the Bible,
You know, that thing or whatever.
is like, oh, all this money's being spent on, like, the temple and shit like that, and it's not going to, like, widows' rations.
Yeah.
We are really talking about capitalism.
Yeah.
and how money is being wasted where it could, like, we are talking about a working class Jewish activist advocating on behalf of working class Jewish people being silenced by a council. Interesting. Anyway, back to this debate hole. So Mark says this is the first time he's ever experienced anti-Semitism.
How old is he by this point?
It's 1991, so he's like 50 something.
But sorry, maybe I'm confusing people. Wasn't EC the one who was getting the shit kicked out of him?
Yeah, Mark went to Mount Scopus College, the Jewish school.
That's right.
EC went to the public school.
That's right.
Exactly. And Mark's like, I never actually experienced anti-Semitism until this blackboard.
Until this one moment.
So he says...
I mean, you're doing pretty good, King.
Yeah, it's just...
Let's be real.
Sounds like there's not much of it then. You're old, man.
You went half a century without any.
Man,
Crazy.
I couldn't go 20 years without getting, like, racial abuse for races I'm not from.
Yeah. Which is crazy.
Fam, come on. So he says in a letter he writes to the headmaster that the teaching means none of us ought to be surprised at the incidence of anti-Semitism and other forms of prejudice which appear to be becoming much more commonplace. Again, he says this is the first time he's ever seen it. The way Goenda puts the principal's response, he's like, I think you're making a mountain out of a molehill. But the only actual quote we get is, if you go to a classroom in an Anglican school, you cannot be surprised to see a reference made to Orthodox Anglican religious teaching.
Yeah, that's,
Exactly.
You can't open, like, a jar of bees and be surprised there's bees inside.
That's a very good point, actually. And a reminder to our listeners, if you're in an Egyptian tomb and you find a sex toy, it's a jar of bees.
It's a jar of bees.
Don't open it. So when the principal doesn't, bend over to Mark Leibler, Mark writes to the Anglican Archbishop in Australia, Keith, who basically says, listen, it sounds like you saw some notes on a blackboard. You don't actually know what the lesson was about. And also, that's what happens in the story in the Bible, and this is a Bible-based school, and this is what it claims Stephen said at the time. And also, importantly, Stephen, the character, is Jewish.
Yeah.
And then Mark writes to the Australian Council of Christians and Jews, who pull Keith into a meeting, and everybody gets together to annotate the Bible with all the parts that could be conceived as anti-Semitic.
What?
Yeah, the Anglicans have to, give up to Mark.
What the fuck?
I had a read of the guidelines, rightly explaining the word of truth.
Wow.
Yeah. It doesn't actually talk about Stephen's speech specifically, so I guess they couldn't actually frame that as anti-Semitic, because I think Stephen's making a good point. But yeah, I read the book. It's like a whole thing where it's like, yeah, this part of the Bible is anti-Semitic because this blah, 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 blah. So Mark says this was a source of considerable personal satisfaction and demonstrates the importance of speaking one's mind.
Yeah, I fucking bet, bro. You made people change a religious text. What the fuck?
Yeah, not change, but do an annotated version with all these things being like, hey.
Oh, actually, just a quick note on this. All of this section really anti-Semitic.
Yeah.
So we don't support this section of the Bible.
Yeah, the Bible
in a Christian school.
In a Christian school.
That's crazy.
Don't make me defend Anglicans, Mark.
I don't want to defend the Bible.
No. What are you doing?
Damn. If we're going to be changing it now, we've got other shit to look at.
We've got other shit to look at. So the next year, Gareth Evans, as foreign minister, makes a speech.
Disgusting. Boo. Boo Gareth Evans.
He's not the villain in this story.
Don't care. He's a villain in every story.
No, actually, fuck Gareth. But yeah, I say he gently criticizes the settlements. He kind of sandwiches it. If it's the speech that I'm thinking of, our guy Michael Goenda's being a bit rosy. So Michael's like, Evans severely criticized Israel's expansion of what he said were illegal settlements. I would say that Evans spends a while celebrating Israel's security state and how powerful it is, and then also the special bond between Australia and Israel because of the Labour parties. But then he's concerned about the state of the settlements, and he name drops Mark Leibler to get out ahead of common criticism. He's like, hey, I'm not just focusing on Israeli human rights. He talks about all the human rights abuses that PLO, Syria, Iraq, all these other nations do. And yeah, he's like, I don't want to make Mark Leibler too mad. Hey, all these guys are fucked up as well. All these Arabs are evil too.
Damn.
This is in the context of Australia resuming some kind of diplomatic channel with the PLO, Palestinian Liberation Organization. So hey, we're going to actually talk to these guys. And Mark's like, don't you fucking dare. And he's like, listen, Mark, PLO's evil. Syria's evil. Iraq's evil. I understand. And you're really cool. And I think you're really powerful, and I love Israel, but these settlements are too much. This last genocide is too much. Nevertheless, many Jews were disturbed by Evans' statement. Michael continues. Mark Leibler was enraged, and Mark says that he has to defend the Labour Party to these complainants. So he invites Paul Keating to the ZFA conference, and John Hewson, the opposition leader, is there too. And he's like, Gareth Evans caused all this distress within the Jewish community. What do you have to say about it, Paul? And Paul is like, listen, we are telling the PLO to be, to moderate, to not do these attacks. And Israel, we are telling Israel's Arab neighbors to come to terms with Israel and recognize its right to exist as an independent state. He's like, I'm not going to criticize Gareth, but hey, listen, we are doing all these things. So the ECAJ puts out an article in the same year with The Age saying that the ZFA, Mark's joint, aren't the only game in town when it comes to speaking up for Australian Jews. Mark's response accuses them of making a public distinction between Jews and Zionists. So ECAJ is like, hey, some Australian Jewish people aren't Zionists. And Mark's like, how dare you make a distinction? Judaism is Zionism. Because we are the ZFA, we are the peak body of Australian Jewish people, and Australian Jewish people are disproportionately quite Zionist. He's got his school, he's got his lobbying efforts, he's worked to engender a powerful, passionate relationship between Australian Jews and Israel. And, the ZFA is the peak body. Yeah. And if you kind of dare to imply that Jewish people aren't Zionists, they'll get mad at you then. Even the idea that you could be a Jewish non-Zionist is kind of denied by the ZFA. They kind of view these people as self-hating Jews or whatever.
Yeah.
So Mark's no longer directly involved with the ZFA, although after 10 years of leading the joint, he's kind of got tired. Sometime around 1991 or whenever we are, he becomes chair of the United Israel Appeal, who are focused on bringing in as much money as they can into Israel. Solomon Lew, one of Mark's ABL clients we've mentioned, the
one that no one likes.
The one that no one likes, who owns all these things, he convinces Mark to also chair AIJAC. That's the Australian Israel and Jewish Affairs Council. And the book says he persuaded some of his fellow Jewish billionaires to help fund it.
Damn, okay.
I can't say that. That's anti-Semitic if I say it.
But the book said it.
Goenda says it's okay? Come on, man. So let's talk about tax deductibility for a while, shall we? Do you want to take a little break?
Let's take 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Just to do a little stretch.
Have a pee. All right, beautiful. Let's finish episode 1 of the podcast. If this is over an hour, I think we should split it into 2 because I have a bit less than half left. So we can do that for episode 2.
Hell yeah.
It's a sudden place to end, but we will leave Mark as he's just become chair of AIJAC, the Australian Israel and Jewish Affairs Council, and he's left the ZFA. And we're going to talk about tax again. And we'll get back to it next week. Thank you for joining us this week on Shouldn'ta Come. It's been wonderful to have you. I don't have our introduction sheet, but if you're interested in our work, you can. Well, there's not much you can do. You can go to patreon.com/shouldntacome, shouldntacome, and support us on Patreon if you'd like. You can also go to. There's no one else you can go
our
to.
YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/@shouldntacome.
It just has the
same
podcast.
Yeah, and then we also have our email address, shouldntacome@gmail.com. You can message us. You can send us your favorite type of tax law. We'd be thrilled to hear about it.
And at this point, how are we all feeling about Mark and the ZFA?
Like, I'm really annoyed, I guess, is my predominant emotion is, like, I don't... Like, just kind of hearing how you've described how all of this situation has progressed, it's like watching a car crash, but like a really annoying one where I can see it happening and I'm like, bro, just turn. Oh, fuck, he's not using his indicator. Like, I'm just seeing like all the signs for a collision that is just like so avoidable, and yet everybody behind the wheel is a dickhead.
Well put.
Yeah, definitely.
You know?
I think he's incredibly deplorable, but something that pisses me off more than anything is that thinks he can speak for a group of people while actively silencing those people.
Yeah.
It's just, like, seriously, like, mobster vibes. It's like, you have to keep quiet, you're snitching, you're doing this.
Yep.
Yeah, but I guess, you know what? That's the Australian political dream, right? Like, that is what all of these people do when they get, like, a iota of power, is to suddenly just like stab everyone who gave them that platform in the back.
Yeah.
And just be like, you know, we see it time and time again with all of the, like, you know, politician bios that we've done.
Yeah.
Is they are strongly into a lot of kind of radical stuff, and then they get enough power, they're like, well, radicals are all pieces of shit, actually. You know, all of those protests I went to as a student, oh, that was all bullshit. Actually, the real way to do politics is to do what I want to do. And I'll tell you how you feel about things.
Yeah.
Like, it's this stupid circle of once you get to a certain amount of popularity and influence, everything that got you there doesn't fucking matter anymore. Like, you're on a different level, you're in a different class.
Yeah, it's just weird that somebody's values can change in that aspect, or they never really held those values in the first
Yeah,
place.
like, it's, you know, is this like a metamorphosis where you just spiritually lose everything that made you who you were before? Or was it all like a costume that you were wearing that you can just take off now that you've got what you wanted?
Yeah.
Like, what happened? What happens?
I'd venture that we're looking at it kind of the wrong way. The person who's most likely to give up their beliefs is the one who is pushed to succeed by people like Mark Leibler. Because they're the most influential. No, influenceable. You can influence them the most, is what I'm saying. They're the people who he can influence the most and can thus, you know, put his backing behind them to help them succeed.
I guess
as long as they help him.
And ambition is a hell of a drug. Like, I think once you get to a level of, like, heightened ambition, you might as well just throw things out if it's going to feed into that beast.
You just sell out.
Yeah, because it's like, well, I have a higher cause, and that is me.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning in, Australia.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everyone.
Selling out. We'll be back next week, although we might record it right off. I think the plan is to keep recording tonight, but we'll be back next week, so we'll introduce the podcast again in a few minutes. But you'll have a wonderful rest of your week. Bye now.
Bye.
Bye.